Hi, my name is Dwayne Fulk. I'm the new President CEO of City Utilities of Springfield, Missouri, and I'm here to answer commonly asked questions about me and city utilities. First, what's Dwayne's favorite thing about Springfield? Oh, my favorite thing about Springfield is absolutely the people. And I moved to Springfield in 1987, 37 years ago, and I've always been fascinated how Springfield seems like a small town. I think that's because of the people that move to Springfield, and I know there's a lot of them over time. A lot of them are from small towns, and they bring that attitude with them. And it's interesting to me how when you meet someone from Springfield or in Springfield, they try to seek a connection. Where did you go to school? Where do you work? What neighborhood do you live in? It's great to have those connections, and that's my favorite thing about Springfield. Then, what are Dwayne's hobbies? Well, I'm working on those. So, being a practicing attorney before my current role, I haven't developed a lot of hobbies, but I do like to read, I do like to travel, I do like to see movies. My wife's trying to talk me into pickleball, and she's better at it than I am, so I'm trying to practice up so I can eventually be picked for her team. What's one thing people don't know about city utilities? What I've learned when I first started at City Utilities that I think a lot of people don't know is that all the power we produce in Springfield is sold into a marketplace, and all the power our customers use is purchased out of that marketplace. It's called Southwest Power Pool. I'm currently on the members committee of that organization, and it's a great benefit to reliability in Springfield, but sometimes it's a challenge as well because of the rules they might set that might require us to have additional power generation facilities, which we're currently in the midst of now. Okay, so why does Dwayne have so many planes in his office? So, interesting question. In my first couple years of private practice, I used to do aviation finance. It used to be, before I started doing that, they would give you a model plane at the end of a deal with your name on it and information about the deal. That stopped. Budget cuts, I suppose. But I still have a lot of those models in my office, and it's great for people to come in as a conversation starter, and if there's children, for them to play with as well. So, part of my history. Why did Dwayne move to Springfield? I initially came to Springfield to go to college at Southwest Missouri State University. Never been to Springfield before until Don Simpson, who is Councilman Matt Simpson's father, used to be the director of admissions at Missouri State, called and asked me to come visit. And I'd already enrolled at another college and said, why should I come there? And he said, well, we have a new honors college starting, a new scholarship program, think you might be interested. And my very first trip to Springfield to visit, my mother and I stopped at the first place we saw, which was Northtown Mall, and we thought, wow, what a great mall, and at the time it really was. We turned onto Glenstone, stopped at the first hotel we saw. It's now the Lamplighter Inn. I think it was the Sheraton at the time, and we thought, wow, what a great hotel. And of course, I was from a small town, Macon, Missouri, and then we went on to Bass Pro Shops, and what sealed the deal was there were no traffic lights at the time to come out of Bass Pro Shops parking lot, but we were able to get out in traffic because traffic stopped to let us out to make a left turn, which never happened in North Missouri. So it was great to have that experience, and we thought of Springfield as a nice and welcoming place, and it's really turned out to be that way for me. Okay, all right, I'm getting the hang of the tearing off a little bit. Okay, how does City Utilities support the Springfield community? Springfield is the owner of City Utilities. The citizens of Springfield, in fact, are the owner customers of City Utilities. And so one way that we support the community is providing the best customer service in the different commodities that we provide: electric, gas, water, broadband, and transit. But we also support the community in other ways. We support the community through economic development, which helps us obtain more customers to spread our costs. And we support the community in some of their initiatives in the recreational and social sense as well, because we are citizens of the community. The success of Springfield is tied to the success of City Utilities and vice versa. How many boards have I served on, and what for? That's a good question. When I was in private practice, I think at one time I was on 12 different boards, nonprofit boards, and at the time I did a lot of nonprofit corporate work. And so I think that's an important way to give back, is to provide your time and talent to different organizations. But I eventually had to promise my wife to only be on 2 boards at a time, which I interpreted to mean only be an officer or the president of 2 boards at a time. But currently I'm on a much less number of boards, and that would be Care to Learn, which is a great organization in Springfield. Also, the Public Building Corporation, the OTC Public Building Corporation, which owns all the buildings at OTC. Accelerate SGF, which is one of the small business accelerators at the E-Factory as well. And then the Community-Wide Coalition to Recruit School Board Members is another organization that's a nonprofit that I'm involved in also. How did Dwayne wind up at CU? So the story to that is that I met Scott Miller, who was general manager at the time, on a community leadership visit to Nashville. We sat together on the plane and struck up a conversation. And during that conversation, I asked Scott about joining the board of City Utilities, and he suggested I join the Citizens Advisory Council. And so I did, and 3.5 years later, John Black, who was general counsel at the time, retired, and so I applied for the job. And John, when I spoke to John about interest in the job, he said, well, it's public service. You wouldn't like it if you don't like public service. And I said, well, I think I know what that is. I'm on a lot of boards, obviously, but I didn't know until I joined City Utilities how the mission of the organization really permeates the culture. And I swear if you talk to any employee at City Utilities about what they do, eventually they'll talk about the customer and they'll talk about the community. And what a great thing to all share the same mission and to have your career and your job and your community service all wrapped up into one. And how did Dwayne meet his wife? Okay, this is an embarrassing story on me. So when I was first in private practice as an attorney, I worked for a real estate lawyer. And when I went to go buy my first house, he said he wanted to look at my loan documents, marked them all up, and gave them to me right before the closing. So I went to the bank on the lunch hour, and my wife was the only bank officer in the bank at the time. And so I brought my documents in, and she thought, wow, what a crazy, arrogant attorney that he thinks we're going to change these form loan documents just for his little house that he's buying. But fortunately, the loan officer I had worked with walked in and was able to make a few changes and saved me from that situation. And then we actually got set up on a blind date by one of the board's directors, who was the father of my first college roommate. So it was funny how that came back around. Again, a funny story about how Springfield's a small place, and luckily she forgave me for the initial insult, and we had a great first date and moved on from there.